NFR podcast.
Before we dive into the episode, guys, do not forget to hit that subscribe button in the notification tab. We're connecting the world to hip hop, and today we are going to be diving into the top 10 highest selling first week albums of the 2020 year. Sorry, my bad. But listen, we've seen a lot of commercial success. We've seen a lot of different rollouts, and it's been kind of hard for artists to come in and do it just because you know it's Corona,
during the
right?
pandemic. It's tough, man.
It's super hard to get albums across, and a lot of the themes with these albums is that I don't think a lot of them really hit home as far as music goes, but a lot of them hit home, especially with commercial wise.
Yeah, so let's start off with number 10, where we have Lil Wayne's Funeral, which sold 139,000 copies first week. And this was the first time that we were hearing from Wayne since the Carter 5. So people were eager to hear some new Wayne content.
Yeah, and we saw that in the first week sales. It did put up 139,000 copies first week. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 charts. And I think out of the list that we have here, there's only 2 other albums that did not debut at the number 1 album chart.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy to see. Not only that, but the rollout was super clean. It was more of a teaser where people were contemplating at first because he was posting shit on the socials, and then obviously he announced it and he released it later on. Let's go on to number 9. We have Future's High Off Life that sold 153,000 copies first week. So talk to me about that, man, and talk to me about his impressive record that he's had the past 7 albums.
What's crazy is that, like you said, it's his 7th consecutive album to go number 1 on the Billboard chart, which is totally amazing to see the longevity that Future has had in the rap game. And this album was no different, man. People loved it, and it was a really solid record.
It was a solid record, and it's awesome to see where Future was able to take his commercial success. Excuse me, man, I'm stuttering a lot this episode, but it was also nice to see that people are still tuning in to listen to Future's music. He is the dawn of trap music, and he will continue to put up numbers. So at number 8, we do have another duo from the Atlanta trap lane, and I didn't know how this was gonna do just because Savage Mode. I don't think it did the craziest numbers first week.
It didn't, because 21 Savage was still kind of an emerging rapper.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't anything.
It didn't do anything close to this, which sold 171,000 copies first week. And I think that the way that they rolled out this album was genius. Just from the trailer featuring Morgan Freeman's narration to dropping that cover art, which was reminiscent of 90s hip hop. It was all perfectly calculated, and it was a really solid album.
Yeah, and it's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people. I know a lot of our fans on Twitter do like the album, and it was a super clean rollout. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It wasn't over-communicated, and I also saw how many major placements that they had on big blogs. Like, Hypebeast was covering it heavy for them. XXL was covering it heavy for them. Everyone was covering it. So just cool to see where they were able to do with their marketing rollout.
Number 7, Lil Baby's My Turn, which is only a second studio album, but it sold 197,000 copies first week. And Lil Baby actually became the first artist to go double platinum in 2020. So the commercial success this year that he's had, it's amazing to see, man.
It is, and it did debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. That is incredible for a second studio album. Not a lot of people could say they could do that. And an interesting fact that we mentioned in our episode that just released with Talking Rap was, he put up a record with Paul McCartney and who was the other?
Prince.
And Prince for the most entries on the Billboard 200 chart.
On the Billboard Hot 100 chart.
On the Billboard Hot 100 chart. So it's crazy to see where he's going and his career is going. He had a crazy year commercially. Let's move on to number 6, which is Logic's No Pressure. Listen, if you would have told me that Logic would have had a comeback season in 2020, I would have told you out of your fucking mind. Like, there's absolutely no way. And not only that, but he was able to put up 221,000 first week copies. So
yeah, and
impressive.
It's the whole thing of him, promoting it as his retirement album. People were excited to see what his final album would sound like, and it's just kind of unfortunate that it only went number 2 on the Billboard chart just because it was released the same week that Taylor Swift released Folklore, which was the biggest album of the year so far. I think it sold 800,000 first week.
Yeah, something stupid.
Crazy like that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that gives me some serious like Illuminati devil vibes. Like, those are not some that's no 6 streams there. But whatever. We're gonna go on to number 5. We have Drake's Dark Lane demo tapes. This is nuts. A track list full of Lucy's and throwaways was able to put up over 200,000 streams and locked in at 223,000 copies first week. Sorry. This is nuts, man. Like, this guy has crazy.
Most artists can achieve this first week sales, in their entire careers, and Drake does it by releasing songs that people have already heard because they've been leaked. And it's crazy, man. This guy could sell he can sell anything.
He could sell anything he wants. And another good indicator about this track list is, the type of commercial success he's going to have coming in with Certified Lover Boy. And it may be one of his most commercially successful albums, just because, we could see where the hype is now. People were able, to really tune into this album full of Lucy's that was low-key, leaked 6 hours before it was released, and still put up, the Drake success. So it's nice to see where he's at. But let's go on to number 4. It's Pop Smoke's Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon. This sold 251,000 copies first week.
Yeah, man, it's pretty impressive to do that. And I think 50 Cent had a lot of, power with, constructing this album, and he made it have the perfect rollout that it did, in my opinion. The only problem with the rollout, I guess, was the whole cover art by Virgil Abloh, where we had, this beer bongs and Bentleys vibe. Where what was it? It was like some kind of
barbed wire.
That's
face.
it.
Yeah, it wasn't too cool, but whatever. They were able to get that whole thing sorted out, and it was just congratulations to the camp and 50 Cent for putting on such a good rollout. It was super seamless. It wasn't overly, in your face, and at the end of the day, he was asking people for his takes on like, okay, well, what do you want as the album cover? Because I think maybe he saw Uzi do it and he got a good reception from it. Applied it to this one. We're gonna talk Uzi later in this list, but at number 3 we have Eminem's Music to Be Murdered By. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of this album. I don't think it's...
I think you can debate if this or Revival is his worst. Like, you can have that conversation because they're both like pretty awful.
Yeah, they're not good albums. But then again, that's our opinion. But the opinion of the hip hop community is still pretty good because this guy's still putting up crazy numbers. 279,000 copies.
And just like Kamikaze, man, it was a surprise album.
Surprise album. But I don't know. I wasn't really taken away by it because I was on my IG feed and I was like, shit, not this again.
Yeah, I thought it was a single at first, but then I saw it was a full album. I'm like, I just heard from you like 2 fucking years ago, not even a year and a half ago. Like, I don't need another album.
Yeah, and everything and everything maybe past 2013 has been really subpar, not your greatest work too. So
and it sucks because he could have had one of the best discographies in hip hop history.
Absolutely, but I think maybe that's just a product of him wanting to continuing to rap and everything. But hey, listen, it is what it is. But we're gonna go on to number 2. It is Lil Uzi Vert's Eternal Atake at 288,000 copies first week. That's fucking incredible.
Yeah, and it has the 4th highest first week streaming numbers ever at 400 million streams. People ate this shit up, man, just because they hadn't heard from Uzi in 3 years, and this was his most anticipated album yet. And, it was very successul.
Yeah, you saw the commercial success. And another thing that I liked was he incorporated his fan base into the rollout. So I mentioned prior to this pick that, like 50 Cent was allowing the fans to choose like the album art. He wanted reception on it. And that was originally introduced in the month of March by Uzi himself. He was kind of asking people, okay, so what are you guys fucking with? You want this album art? What do you want here? What do you want here? And then finally he dropped it at a super random time. Like it was Friday, I think, like around like 11:30 a.m.
Yeah, it was a couple of days after he was showing off those album covers,
and we were just entering Toronto at that point. I remember I was in the car driving into the 6 at that point, and
I was kind of underwhelmed when I heard it. But, hey, a lot of people love this album, so to each their own. Let's move on to number 1, which there's a huge gap between number 2 and number 1, from 288,000 copies with Eternal Atake to 497,000 first week sales with JuiceWrld's Legends Never Die.
It's crazy because this is a posthumous album and it is the most successful posthumous release in the past 20 years. Incredible to see what his camp was able to do with that. Shout out to Lil Baby. And listen, at the end of the day, he has over 2,000 vaulted songs. We know how incredible of an artist he is, and we know what type of range that he could put on. And it really didn't surprise me when I saw these types of numbers because this guy has crazy radio appeal, and this guy could sell to any demographic he wants. He introduced not only emo rap into a pop genre, but he also introduced these melodic sounds and more of a simple production, something that really is clear cut and more emotionally touching to his fan base. So you saw where it was coming from.
People were really attached to his personality as well. I think that helped, grow his fan base. And I just think that these numbers are proof that JuiceWrld's impact was indescribable. It was massive, and I'm excited to see what other posthumous records might come.
Yeah, and we're gonna see his legacy live on forever. He's had an incredible impact. But guys, this ends off our list. If you guys haven't already, subscribe and hit the notification tab. As I said before, we're connecting the world to hip hop, and we're gonna be posting a lot more content like this. So visit the channel every day and see what we got coming from you guys. Take it easy.